Welcome to another installment of This Is Not Normal on the Political Drain podcast with Drill Sgt Doug, aka Admin Doug, a U.S. Army veteran, teacher, musician, and family man from Jamaica, now fights for justice and democracy through commentary and humor. Follow him on YouTube at Political Drain and at Sons of Liberty Official as Drill Sgt aka Admin Doug continues to protect our freedoms.
The words, "give me liberty or give me death," meant something. Without that mentality, you lose. What's up, YouTube? Drill Sgt here, and I don't know if you feel it. Can you feel it? I don't know. To me, it seems like there's been a cloud, especially since Saturday, maybe Friday, that an overwhelming sense of dread, fear, confusion, as America seems to be teetering on the edge of fascism, and you don't know which way it'll fall. Many of my friends, my associates, people in the resistance that are my associates that I work with in that capacity, sleep is becoming harder to find, harder to attain. That the way that they used to be able to turn it off at night isn't happening. A lot of doom scrolling. Is that you? Does that seem familiar to you? Look around. Military is being sent to LA streets. There's riots, there's fires, there's smoke on every screen. And a lot of times I know you come to channels like this to get the real news, to get the context, to not be pulled one way or the other by over-exaggeration or fake optimism. Everything's going to be okay when you know that it's not. That bothers you when you see that. Now, I'm here to tell you there is a way out of this. Not that it's easy. I know you're looking for some sort of comfort. You may be looking for someone to give you some reassurance that all's not lost. It isn't. I don't know how reassuring it is to tell you that it's not easy, but it should be reassuring to know all's not lost. Fear is good. Dread, maybe not so much. Uncertainty, inevitable. And one of the reactions to this inevitability or to this situation we're in, to this overwhelming sense that all of us are feeling, seeing what's going on, is to call truth fear-mongering. I was invited to The Enemy Within. Awesome channel. You guys got to check it out. And in that interview, I said some things that a few people have taken issue with. People who I respect, but the same people who may be doom scrolling and having lost some sleep. I mean, it's not like I haven't lost any. And wondering what I meant by it. And may even go further and say I was being too extreme. I'm fear-mongering. I'm going to show you these two clips. One of me and what I said, so that you know what they're talking about and why they had an issue with it. And then I'm going to show you someone named Dr. Russell Razaki. And he goes through the actual lessons that we learned from people who have beat this before. And even though maybe what I'm asking is something you've never thought about or may seem extreme, you realize that it's not more extreme than what's necessary. And if we do it, it's a guaranteed win. It's really meant to be motivational. Two clips. Check it out. My interview with The Enemy from Within, Josh. He's awesome. After that, I'm going to show you or hopefully explain exactly what I meant to those people who are weary, to those people who think that maybe I went too far. Here's the first.
Yeah, that gives me peace of mind, though, is that we are resisting in some form or another and pushing back on them. And you're right. These guys are so goddamn dumb. That's the good news, right? It's good. They're impulsive and they don't think things through, and they do just think they're going to steamroll Americans at this point.
That's the best thing we got going for us is they're incompetent.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, I don't even know what the details of martial law are. Like you had mentioned a curfew. I don't know if that means military on the streets everywhere you go. But how do we, we've got, like you said, we're pushing back. They weren't necessarily expecting that. How do we continue to push back in a way that's not going to get us killed or thrown in prison? Or do we do that? Do we just go out like that? I'm not really sure.
People are going to die and people are going to go to prison. This is not a video game. This is not a drill. This is not a test. I say that up front because to think otherwise is to be naive. Any authoritarian regime controlled from the top to the bottom by people who are sycophants and who worship their leader always ends in only one way. Now, how that happens is up to the people. If people just go along to get along, or if people just keep their head down, it happens immediately. It's contrary to what you think. If people, like we saw on Sunday, go out with a fight, it takes a longer time. There's a lot more processes, a lot more thinking to be done. If they think they can roll over you, they will. Take Harvard and the other people, Columbia. Harvard says, no, we're not going to do what you want. And it goes through legal challenges and they're still doing what they want. Harvard is. Columbia says, yes, we'll do what you want. And immediately they say, now do this, now do that, now do this, now do that. And now Columbia's in a bind and trying to fight out of just getting $1 for themselves because they capitulated. The same thing happens. You have rights as an American. The only way to stop it is to fight. There are people out there who want to fight by protesting. Yes, go. There are people out there who want to fight by becoming what we call a meat shield. They want to put themselves in between the police and the people being harassed. Yes, go for it. There's consequences for that. Period. There shouldn't be, but there will be, more than likely.
Fair.
There are people who are fighting in the shadows, who are trying to infiltrate groups who are already known to be bad. Do it. If that's what you do, get trained and do it. And there are people like us who are the voices, who are showing what's happening, because everything dies. Nothing happens if the media is quiet. It's the most important piece of our Constitution is the free press, because without it, you get Goebbels. Without it, you get Mussolini. Without it, you get Putin. And because our media has been so lackluster, we got Trump. So we have a chance to change it. People are going to get hurt, yes. How much that happens depends on how hard we fight. Literally, there are millions of us, hundreds of millions of us. There are only thousands of them. That's a numbers fact, right? And if we're fighting on all fronts, this thing doesn't go as far as it can, and less people will die than if we don't fight. That's the hard part.
There you have it. Yes. Okay. Now, we all know that we're in a crisis, sure. But the first words I said was, people are going to die. That wasn't meant to be inflammatory. It was meant to be informative. You see, when the solution includes words like that, you don't put it at the end. The shock, not for shock value. It may open your eyes and tell you what's needed. And if you think I'm just fear-mongering, I'm not. So listen to Dr. Russell Rizaki. And when he gives you the history lesson, when he shows you that there is a way to win, it's proven throughout history. We'll come back at the end and you'll see that my goal isn't to scare people. My goal is to teach you how to win.
He's going to use almost no excuse, a peaceful protest, to start to build up and expand his power. Now, what happens after that? You see, the thing is, the mindset of an authoritarian, whether consciously or unconsciously, is they want all or nothing. They either want it all, absolute and total power, or nothing at all. And so they're willing to gamble on that. And that gamble sometimes works, or sometimes it fails. You see, because what happens next is that once that violent response is then undertaken, the next step is that the public then react. they react with anger, and they react with even more protest. People come out into the streets. And at that point, the authoritarian is then forced to make a choice. Do they then react with a mass violence on a huge level or not? And if they do that, then they enter almost into civil war territory at that point. And then the people have to make a choice. What do they do next? Do they come out in even larger numbers and make it almost impossible, even with violence, to overcome them? Now let's look at some examples in history. One example in which this succeeded and one example in which this failed. An example in which this succeeded is actually from Ukraine. Now Ukraine is a country that often leads the way and shows us what bravery really means. They show us how to stand up to tyrants. And they didn't just start doing that about 6 years ago when Russia first invaded Ukraine. It wasn't just a couple of years ago, it was actually many years before that. They didn't just show us how to resist tyranny then, they actually showed us how to do that all the way back in the 1990s. And why is that? Well, at the time, they had a leader who had undergone a democratic election. And he had clearly lost that election, everybody knew. But what he did is he pretended he had won. He faked a few extra votes, or a whole range of extra votes actually, because he had lost in a big way. He faked a whole bunch of extra votes and then declared himself the winner. What then happened is that the public came out into the streets to protest. He then reacted with violence against those protesters. Now, you're going to have to kill us all, because we would rather die than live enslaved to you. And millions of Ukrainians poured onto the streets. In fact, the slogan, "Yes, we can," came from there. Now, it was a very inspiring moment for the Ukrainian people. They never forgot what they managed to achieve. They poured out into the streets. They dared the dictator to destroy the entire country if he wanted to take it over. And of course he couldn't. He backed down. He lost all authority and had to give in. Elections were then held again. He lost completely and Yushchenko became president. It became a democratic country. And the Ukrainians never forgot what they sacrificed, what they were prepared to sacrifice for their freedom. Here's an example of where it failed. In Russia, let's come down more to contemporary history now. When Putin invaded Ukraine, of course, it did shock people across the whole of Russia. Nobody thought he would do it. Even his own supporters, even his own cabinet didn't think they would do it. If you remember, he had a meeting in the Kremlin when he got sort of senior members of his administration to come and directly address him in front of the cameras about this. What he was trying to do is dip everybody's hands in blood, make it look like everyone was part of this process and this decision. The truth is, they were completely surprised by it. Everybody was surprised by it. Now, what happened is that protests started in the streets. People came out into the streets and started to protest against it. Putin then started to respond with violence, which he, of course, has done throughout the whole of his reign. He responded with violence, and people then started to get arrested. He then started to send people to gulags and told them that they were sentenced to decades in prison. So once he started to utilize violence against the people, what happened next is very different to what happened in Ukraine. See, what happened in Ukraine is they then poured in their millions into the streets, but that didn't happen in Russia. Russians actually stayed home, and in fear of the lives of themselves and their other fellow countrymen, they didn't engage in any protests. At that moment, Putin became more powerful than he ever had been. He had won. In the all or nothing stakes, he had got all. In the same way that Kuchma had got nothing, Putin had got all. So there always comes a crux moment, and authoritarian leaders are willing to roll the dice. They're like, you know what, I want it all or I want nothing. And they want to escalate to the point at which the people then have to make a choice.
When I said it's up to us what the people do, despite the fact that we know what the fascist regime, what the dictator is going to do, it wasn't a dare. It was a statement of historical fact that should motivate. The words, "give me liberty or give me death," meant something. Without that mentality, you lose. If you're fearful, that's okay. Bravery is the response. Bravery is doing what you need to do even when you're scared. They win when they scare you into not coming out. They win when they can feed you the false idea that somehow the thousands of them can actually beat and dictate to the hundreds and millions of us how we want our country to go. We've passed the point of political games. This is the only way to win, and that's not a scare tactic. As a matter of fact, it's the way that you can feel better about that cloud we talked about, because it can be broken. It can be split. They don't have the numbers. Only if we relax, draw back, put our head down, can they win. They don't have it. They don't have it. America is we the people for a reason. Give me liberty or give me death. My SOL fam out there, you know that there's a t-shirt that says, fight like your ancestors did. Well, it's not just a cool slogan. It has meaning. It has purpose. Give me liberty or give me death was not a slogan on a red hat. It was a way of thinking, because without that mindset, you lose. But with that mindset, you win, because there's more of you. There's more of us. You have to kill all of us in order to get that dictatorship. And if that's the mindset, you win. It's mathematics. It's a numbers game. They're testing the waters. They're saying who will and who won't. I will. Will you? It's not a dare. It's an inevitability. Without it, authoritarianism. With it, democracy rises again. Let it uplift you, not demoralize you. And if you mistook what I said during that interview, realize it now after hearing the Good Doctor talk. Go check those channels out. If you want to be a part of the resistance that I do in the shadows, email me. If you want to be a part of the resistance that I do in the public, this being the words, talking, being the independent news media that takes the place of the failing, fake corporate media that sold out a long time ago, email me. There's a place for that too. One, you get vetted thoroughly to do things that it is in the shadows. But the other, you don't have to do that. Email either one. We need writers, researchers. We need an executive assistant. And if you want to be a part of that elite spec ops unit, email me. Say that then. And we'll do the vetting. And we fight back in the numbers that they cannot dismiss. Educate yourself, educate others, and then come back for more. Hey, yeah, you. Before you click away to watch someone unbox a tactical toothbrush, let's talk about something real. Political Drain isn't just another content mill. We're a digital front in a very real war. Not with bullets, but with ideas, with action, and with solidarity. We pair urgent news with critical education. And we build community around actual resistance, not the hashtag kind. The kind that moves. But here's the thing. None of this is free. It isn't. Behind every video is time, labor, research, and some weird guy asking if we're going to pay the hosting bill. And yeah, some of that money goes to things we can't necessarily say out loud. If you know, you know. Let's just say our special ops aren't Call of Duty LARPers. They're people making real moves to protect, uplift, and organize. You're not just funding a channel. You're funding a resistance network in a world where capital still calls the shots. Unfortunately, in a system built on artificial scarcity, even mutual aid has a price tag. And if we want to grow, if we want to win, we need your help. We need your help. So if you've got even a few bucks to spare, toss it our way. It's not for ads. It's not for merch drops, but for people making moves in the shadows so others can do it in the light. It's just us and you. So fund the mission, fund the fight, fund the future, because nobody's coming to save us. We save each other. That's how this works. Follow us on all these things you see here, and our link tree is in the description. Maybe even get some merch.
That was the Political Drain podcast, which can be heard on www.groovechillradio.com/political-drain and can be viewed on the Political Drain YouTube channel anytime. Once again, thank you for listening to Groove Chill as we resist fascism in any form, pursue democracy, peace, and love.